Aloha everybody, what's going on my dudes? Welcome to another RuneScape news coverage video. For this video, we're going to talk about movement in RuneScape from the latest dev blog. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. Let's go!
Cats is the illest. What you talking about, Willis?
Alright guys, we talked about this earlier this week and got a look at it with some live footage from the latest live stream. But now we have a dev blog going into further detail regarding movement in RuneScape and how it's going to work, how it came to be, so on and so forth. So first off, to understand how movement's going to happen going forward, we need to know how it works currently in the game. So when you play RuneScape, you interact with the game client. The client connects to the game server, which is run by Jagex, and it's important to make the distinction between those two, because the game server processes almost all of the game logic. For example, your character movement, combat scripts, skilling scripts, etc. The game client, however, displays the world as it is on the server. It cannot directly move your character, but it can tell the server to move your character. The important point is that movement of any player or NPC character in RuneScape is controlled by the server. Every 60 milliseconds, which is one game tick, the server updates your character's position and sends it to your game client. This is aligned to a grid. However, if you saw it just as is like that, your character movement would obviously be very strange like you're seeing on screen here. Now, in order to make it feel more natural, the client interpolates between the character's last position and their new one and makes a nice animation in between. Whenever your client receives a new position, they add it to that character's pending route and animate it all throughout at a fixed speed, depending on whether you're walking, running, or crawling. Now, if your character ends up too far behind its new position, its speed is increased by a fixed amount until it is caught up. So that's basically how movement has been working in RuneScape since 2004. It's done a fine job up until now representing how player and NPC characters move, but there's definitely room for improvement. They say that they're not going to be making fundamental changes to movement here. For example, they're not getting rid of the grid system. But here are two areas that they can improve on. One, characters start and stop instantly with no acceleration or deceleration, and change speed suddenly during movement. This is particularly nauseating if you use the classic camera mode. And two, when turning, characters start moving in their new direction immediately. This makes turning look jagged and unnatural. So let's tackle the first problem, fluidity and acceleration and deceleration. So rather than moving a character at a fixed speed, they're now going to give them acceleration in addition to speed. When you start moving, they'll transition you from 0 to full speed over the course of 200 milliseconds. Then, when the server tells them that there's no more movement, they can then decelerate back to 0. This will also apply when you're changing speed during movement. If your character runs out of energy and then starts walking, they will slow down a bit and make it more gentle. They've also been able to create a smarter catch-up system. So as I said earlier, your character sometimes suddenly speeds up if they end up too far behind the actual position on the server. And with their new method of handling speed, this will make it a bit more seamless and subtle, adjusting the character's speed based on how far behind they are. The longer the route, the faster the character moves. And when their speed changes, it does so gently. Now, as well as making the catch-up system more seamless, this very slightly improves how responsive your movement inputs are. The closer they keep the character to the end of their pending route, the faster you will see them reach their most recent position. This will be happening all the time, and if done right, players will probably never even notice. The next problem is turning. Now this is where things get interesting. It'd be nice, instead of following a route in straight lines, that you could follow it in a curve as well. A simple and effective curve that they can use is a Bezier curve. Without getting into too much detail, a Bezier curve is a parametric curve created by interpolating between a number of points. In this case, we have 3 points per curve, so the curve would be a quadratic Bezier curve. However, it's not enough to just take existing points and turn them into curves. You'll end up with a bit of a mess, where curves won't line up properly depending on where you begin your movement, and some turns would be more tight than others. Your character also might end up cutting corners and phasing through walls, so it required a little bit more work. In order to tidy this up, they needed to add more points along the way, so whenever they receive a new position from the server, they need to create additional points at half tile steps towards that new location. Then they only generate curves from every other point to make sure the character always enters and exits a tile in a way that would align nicely with the next point. So now that they got nice curves to interpolate across, when you move your character, you can take your speed and move it along the curve with smooth acceleration as well as turning. In practice, it's a bit more complicated, but that does give you a general understanding of the inner workings of the new movement. Anyways guys, that pretty much wraps up everything from the dev blog. I will have it linked down in the description below if you want to go ahead and check them out for yourself and just read it off in its entirety. Do check it out, it's a pretty interesting read. And let me know down in the comments what you think about it. With that, I'm going to wrap up the video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed and you want to stay up to date on all things RuneScape related, then hit that subscribe button. Anyways, I appreciate you watching. I am out. Aloha.